welcome to Mikia. My name's Michelle Edhouse, and today I've been asked a few times how do you reuse canvases, and it's basically the same as preparing a piece of wood. I use gesso. There's different brands of gesso. Most companies that do paint are that they put out a gesso. Gesso is a fast drying primer sealer for canvas, boards and most painting surfaces. It seals absorbent surfaces to prevent uneven appearance and excessively fast drying, so which happens when the paint penetrates. And they all have their own little quips and tips and stuff. This one says allow 24 hours minimum drying before usage. This one doesn't say. This one's quick drying and waterproof. Depends what you're after in the long run. As I say, I use different brands depending on what I've got, and I'll link to the ones that I can find on Amazon in the description for you to check it out. Just some tips with regards to doing anything with an old canvas that you've used silicone in. Always clean your canvas well. Get all that silicone off before you repaint. I've got a painting video from, I don't know, somewhere in the first 100 videos where it shows perfectly why I say that. Once I've cleaned the silicone off and it's re-dried again, grab a bit of sandpaper and just rub over it a bit. This one in particular, you can see, maybe you can I get you to be able to see? Alright, there we go. It's quite textured. I don't mind that. I'm happy to have a textured background. But I do want to make sure that my paint has something to stick to. Acrylic paint quite often is quite, what's that word? Plasticky? Depending on what brand you're using, obviously, but just like if you were painting the house, you need to give the old paint a bit of surface edge for it to bite to. Alright, you can see by the colour of my sandpaper it's taken off a bit of paint. Then I always give it a wipe down just to make sure we've got the bits off. So I just grab a wet cloth. I have cloths in my studio that alone are allowed to do. See all that comes off? So I just want to get that dust off. If you use just a small amount of water and don't saturate your canvas, then you can gesso straight away. So let's give that one more rinse. My studio is set up such that I've actually got a sink right next to where I paint. It's really handy. But if you don't have that, I highly recommend having a bowl or something next to you of water just to drop your tools into once you've finished with them, because sometimes we're in the middle of doing something and we don't have time to clean it off, and if you can drop it into a bowl of water, it can then be just sitting there wet waiting to be cleaned rather than going hard and dry and crusty. So I find to do this job, foam brushes are really good. You may find other things work better for you. And what I do is I just put a little bit of the gesso into a container and water it down a bit. And that just makes it a lot easier to spread. Now some of you are wondering, well, why can't I just paint straight over that? Absolutely, you can. You don't have to gesso if you don't want to. Why I tend to gesso is that opens up the options about what colours I then can use on the next painting. Because you know how sometimes when you, especially if you're using silicone, and you drop the paint on and air bubbles pop or silicone rises, and you end up with it actually going down to the canvas, being able to see the white of the canvas underneath. And if you're doing a pretty light pink and you get that harsh red come up through your painting, is that what you are after? If it is, cool, don't bother gessoing. If it's not, I suggest that you gesso it first, just to give you those extra options and to give you that little bit of protection from weird stuff happening because of your previous pour underneath. So I'm going to put this aside, let it looks blurry because it is blurry because it's got the gesso on top, and then I'm actually probably going to do 3 coats on this just to get it to a reasonable density, thickness, cover, blah blah. So I'll be back. Okay, part 2. So as you can see, I now have, and you could pour on this, this has now got a nice tooth to it, something to paint on. But if you want to get a second, third, fourth coat, you want to get rid of those colours like I was talking about before, just give it a quick sand. I'm not taking a lot off because there's not a lot on there. I'm just taking any large bumps that were on there off. Oh, I don't need my tins. Lisa's got pins. Tins, pins, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So that's now taken it to a much smoother feel than it was. Again, damp cloth, wipe it down. And another coat. Now, this stuff dries really quickly. Highly recommend you put your brushes into a plastic bag like I have here, just to keep them smooth, wet. Otherwise you're going to be constantly washing, and it's just a pain. It's just annoying. Yes, washing does stuff, but it also puts a lot of paint into our waterways, which we don't really need. So you can probably see there my brush strokes went that way on this time. I'm going to go back the other way. Just, again, just got just a light coat. And you're better off doing multiple light coats than trying to do thick coats and get them, like watch this, if I try and get an even thick coat, I'm going to spend my time trying desperately to get it to be smooth. Whereas if you do multiple layers, and what I actually do, and it's that's what I'm doing at the moment, is I actually wait till I've got a few canvases I want to reuse, just dabbing it a little bit to get the paint into any bubble holes that are in the original painting. And I'll do 4 or 5 at a time and just, you know, set a video going on YouTube and paint. Of course, I'm not doing that for you here because I'm talking to you, but when I do my other ones I will be, and just make sure you don't get any bits that might come off your brush. Okay. And I tend to only mix up enough paint that I'm going to use that day where possible. Otherwise you end up with stuff going hard and crusty in containers. It's just a lot easier to keep it in its original vessel where it stays nice and thick and usable. And just remember to, especially if you're planning on painting to sell, you might want to just flip it over and put a cover of gesso over any messy bits underneath. See how that's still quite dark there. Alright, so I'm going to leave it to dry one more time. Just pop it on an angle to the light and just check that there's no really thick, obvious brush stroke lines. Get out any of your bits. I found with these foam, once they start to disintegrate, they start leaving funny lines in your paint, so just be aware of that too. One more side. And we'll let that coat dry as well. See how much more of the colour is disappearing each coat. Doesn't take long to cover it up. So I'll be back once this is dry. Okay, so we're back. It took me a bit longer to get back to this than I thought. I ran out of time before I went away to Whangarei. I was hoping to have this one finished and available for you while I was away, but it didn't happen, you know, that whole good old it happens when it happens thing. The world has its own point of view as to what you're supposed to be doing and when you're supposed to be doing it. So I had somebody message me the other day on the video where I used gesso for the bag, for the shopping bag that I did, and they're like, what do they call gesso in America? And I've heard other artists that do acrylic pouring that are American based talking about gesso. I've seen videos of how to use gesso done by American artists. So if you haven't heard of it before, maybe you need to go to an art shop rather than a craft shop, maybe. I'm not sure. I know we have it in all of our, anywhere that sells paint sells gesso. So, art paints, not house paint. So I highly recommend you just jump on there. There will be a link underneath this video to my Amazon shop. Now I don't buy this on Amazon, and so I just want to point that out, that this is not bought from Amazon, but I will put a link in my Amazon shop to a gesso, so that if you want to grab it from there, that would be cool, or at least it gives you the spelling of it when you go into another shop to ask for it. And all paint, as I think I've said before, all paint companies have their own gesso. So, you know, if you are a Liquitex devotee, you might want to use the Liquitex one. If you're a Reeves devotee, you might want to use the Reeves one like I do. It's up to you what brand you use, just like with any other paint. So there we go. So that's our third coat. As you can still see some of the paint from the previous painting through it. It's definitely nowhere near as harsh, and it's definitely given the whole painting canvas an even toothed finish to paint on again, rather than having some of it one type of paint, some of it another. It's given it an even bed to paint on. So there you go. This is how you reuse paintings, videos, and reuse canvases. And if you stick around, in another video I will be using this. Obviously I've just done another coat on it, so it's going to be tomorrow before I paint on this, so it'll be a couple of days before you get to see that one. But you know, I will definitely be painting on this canvas sometime soon. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you very, very soon, probably even tomorrow, in my next video. I adore you. Have fun. Bye-bye.